And have you found that readers understand the Victorian era as
No. 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 So okay, it's funny you asked that because I can talk about this a little bit. So there was a lot more freedom for women in that period and than there was in the Regency era, and there was also a lot more freedom for women in the middle class than there was for women in the nobility as far as like their sexuality, that kind of thing.
hmm
So the first book the first book in the series definitely has some scenes, okay?
Sure.
And I did get some, but this doesn't read like a Regency of this. And I actually like there are like instruments that are used in the first book, and I like did my research, right? Like so those things were available and they were used. So, but it was just interesting, like the feedback I got about that. So
That is interesting. I
yeah.
think it is interesting to walk that line in terms of readers think that they know a lot,
Mhm.
but we're the ones doing the research. First of all, we're not historians, but we have done a lot of research for our books, probably more than the
Yeah.
reader who is just reading for fun has done. And then also, I think there's so many exceptions to any rule
Yes,
that sometimes it's like, well, you might not have encountered this before in literature, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen.
exactly. It's so funny you say that. So one of my beta readers, one of the women on our team, she actually has her doctorate in Victorian literature and like Victorian history. So like now her take on this, on like the first book was like, wow, this is a very accurate portrayal of women's roles in the Victorian period, and right. So that like made me happy because I'm like, okay, I did my research, right? But then there are other readers who are like, oh, this doesn't read, this is like too modern. And by modern, I think they mean that they're used to reading Regency probably, and they're used to like books that don't deal with anything other than the nobility, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I've done so much research on like, the socioeconomics of the period and like what the conversations were that were happening, in the middle class and in the lower class. I mean, they weren't ignorant, and literacy was finally taking off because there were like village schools.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And there were also so many people, and there was a lot of change happening. So
A
there's a lot
lot.
of things
Yeah.
that were happening that we might not have learned about in school, but it was still
Hmm.
happening.
Exactly.